So we were doing the rankings for our second version of our Dynasty Domain Rookie Draft Guide, which, by the way, version 2 is available now with the team blueprint when you sign up with code DOMAIN at flockfantasy.com/domain. Links in the description. But we're doing these rankings, and I'm like, hey, Nathan, can you put these rankings together? I'll check over them for you. No big deal. And I'm like, yeah, surely Nathan and I are, going to have most of the same opinions. He'll do a pretty good job.
And we did.
And it's
we
pre-draft.
actually did.
And I start looking at Nathan's rankings, and Nathan has at quarterback Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, cool. And then Michael Penix, and I'm like, okay, fine. And then Bo Nix, and I'm like, okay. And then J.J. McCarthy. And so I tried to tell him, I'm like, Nathan, J.J. McCarthy's being mocked in the top 15 right now of NFL mock drafts. Mm-hmm. And Nathan just doesn't care. So I'm going to start. I'll start here.
Yeah, go for it. I'll just tear your argument down
do it
as we continue this.
We preach. Do we not preach that when we are evaluating prospects, draft capital is king?
Yes.
So why in the mother freaking heck should I
Mother
not
flocker?
Right, go domain. Why should I not use that as my reasoning to rank players right now based on their projected draft capital?
Because has J.J. McCarthy actually been drafted top 15 yet?
No, but it doesn't matter. Again, all I have to do is say, okay, he's ranked here, but if he doesn't get top 15 draft capital, then after the draft, we're like, yeah, well, he slides down. It's the case with anybody.
Yeah, so I would be okay with that argument, except that this really brings us to the philosophy of like, what do we do with our rankings? Because if we did all of our rankings based off the projected draft capital of players going into the NFL draft, then we wouldn't even be doing our own rankings. They wouldn't be original, and we wouldn't really have much opinion in them, because at that point we just say, well, then,
but it's
then
not,
you just
but
go
it's not
with
like
the draft
this is
capital.
like a tier.
So
like
and the other thing is, I've talked to you about this a lot, but I'll just say it for the people that are watching. What did we do with Will Levis last year? Even though he was consistently being mocked top 5, consistently.
Did we not
and
have?
It was essentially a lock that Levis.
Did we not have
5.
Will Levis in the top 8 of some of our mocks last year?
Not as we got close to the draft, even though he's being consistently. I don't think we did. We had him.
I
had
feel
him
like
late
we did
first.
I feel like we did, but also like I remember with Will Levis, it was like wherever he gets drafted, yes. But Will Levis was being talked about like going in the top 5. So
right, and guess what? He didn't go top 5.
I obviously know that.
Right.
But what I'm saying is like, it's not like this is J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix and Bo Nix are all like projected to go in the same range, and so we're just like using our own personal opinion as like the deciding factor. We're talking about like a full round draft capital difference. The difference between top 15 and second round draft capital right now is what they're both. That's the buzz for those 3 prospects. But we're going to rank J.J. McCarthy behind those guys for why?
Because you and I agree.
What do we agree?
That Bo Nix and Michael Penix are better prospects than J.J. McCarthy.
But it doesn't matter, because if the NFL says that J.J. McCarthy is a better prospect,
what has the NFL said? What have they actually said?
But everything is hypothetical.
Mel Kiper said
the Nix and Penix thing is
not the NFL.
What if Nix and Penix get third? Mel Kiper, my butt.
Okay, so if Penix
I'm
and
not
Nix,
even looking at Mel Kiper's
if Penix and Nix get third round draft capital, then if they eventually get third round draft capital, then of course they're not being ranked at this point.
Well, it works the same way with McCarthy.
Right.
So why not rank McCarthy accordingly and then adjust?
Because that's not our opinion of the prospect.
It's my opinion.
So you think J.J. McCarthy is objectively a better prospect than Penix and Bo Nix?
I think the NFL genuinely believes that, and if they do, I am inclined to say yes. Because J.J. McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy is not Kenny Pickett.
We will both be inclined to say yes if J.J. McCarthy ends up being drafted higher than Bo Nix and Michael Penix. So I am of the firm opinion that he will not.
Why?
And why?
Yes, why? You have to support that. Like, I see why. I see why they think he's going to be a top 15
So here's the pros to J.J. McCarthy and the pros that you hear all the time with J.J. McCarthy. It's that he has a strong arm and that he's athletic. So he has some upside fantasy-wise with his potential rushing upside and his arm talent. My thing with that is it's really funny to hear people outside of us talk about J.J. McCarthy because they're like, oh, McCarthy, he's so amazing, he's so good.
Which I've never said
He has all
that.
these great tools, and I said aside from us.
I know.
He has all these great tools and everything, but the big question mark with J.J. McCarthy is we don't even really have a sample size of what he could actually do. He's kind of a wild card. We don't really even know what he is. Okay, so let's just look at history. Just in the past 5 years, who are some of the QBs that have gone top 15 that have been that have been taken solely off of traits? Anthony Richardson, case in point, number one.
How do we
Anthony
rank
Richardson last year? We ranked him up there, top 2 in S tier because of what he did
before the draft?
Right, but because of the combine and because he broke the combine and was like an anomaly,
But
like a
JJ
total
McCarthy
anomaly.
also had a good combine.
Yeah,
That's where all the hype
McCarthy wasn't an athletic anomaly though. The hype came before the combine. People just wanted to see what he did at the
But the
combine. And he
actual
didn't do,
like
all
buzz
this
from
memorable
NFL
stuff.
scouts and GMs like didn't come until after the combine.
Okay, so what was the buzz? Remind me what the buzz was with Malik Willis and
not
Desmond
saying-
Ritter in 2022.
I'm not. But
That they were going-
And where
that
did
they were
we
gonna
have
go top
Malik Willis
15.
ranked in 2022?
Second behind Brees Hall.
Right, and then what did we do when he didn't get the draft capital?
We ranked him lower, but
like
okay,
that
okay.
easy.
But what was our mistake?
I don't know. I don't know.
Our mistake
like,
with Malik Willis
that
was
we weren't NFL scouts.
no. We should have recognized, in hindsight, we should have recognized that Malik Willis was by far and away an inferior prospect to those top prospects of those classes in the past.
He's also
in that entire QB
far and
class.
away an inferior prospect to JJ McCarthy. I mean, you're comparing Liberty quarterback Malik Willis to Michigan national champion JJ McCarthy.
Okay, but
it is
if
apples and
if
oranges.
that's the case, then we should have five of the top best QBs in the NFL should all be from Alabama
What?
because they all win national championships. So does it take a national champion in JJ McCarthy to like? Does that mean that he has?
No,
to
you don't
be
have to speak in
an amazing
absolutes when I make that point. My point
Okay.
is you're talking about
All right.
Liberty University and somebody who was successful at Liberty University versus a guy who played in a pro-style offense under Jim Harbaugh, went to the national championship, won the Big Ten, and is coming in as a very raw prospect. He's only 21 years old. I don't even love the guy, but you're making me defend him like I love him. Like, because I see it. Like, I do see why NFL teams, why scouts, why people who know more than us are excited about JJ McCarthy. And even if my own personal opinions, like, actually, you know what my opinion is? I don't freaking know. And so because I don't know, I'm like, you know what? If he's getting legitimate top 10 buzz, which he absolutely is, it is 100%. It's not just fluff.
So what are you confident in? Between JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. What are you confident in with
I'm
with
fairly
Michael Penix?
confident he is selected ahead of Penix and Nix in the draft.
Okay, but what are you confident about with Michael Penix and Bo Nix? Like from a talent perspective and what you've seen from them, because you don't know
Michael.
JJ
I know
McCarthy.
Michael Penix has an NFL arm, but he has plenty of other questions. His durability is a question, regardless of whether we want to admit it or not. His durability is a question. He's a very old prospect, so how much room does he actually have to develop? He has trouble staying in the pocket because he's scared of getting hurt. He doesn't move outside the pocket and make throws on the run a whole lot. And JJ McCarthy has shown the ability to do those things while also being only 21 years old. JJ McCarthy could be developed in the NFL, whereas Michael Penix, I feel like, is a lot less likely to come in and be developed, as well as Bo Nix, who played 7 years in college. Like you're talking about when we've seen older prospects come in the NFL the last couple of years. I mean, the last best example of this was Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett was a guy who showed all of the intangible skills.
Joe Burrow the year before that.
Joe Burrow's,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Burrow's the outlier, but Kenny Pickett, like I said, Kenny Pickett came in. He was 24 years old. He was supposedly a pretty good prospect. Got first round draft capital, late first round, which is projected above where Penix and Nix are.
Right,
and
but
he
remember,
has not developed at all.
But our opinion of Kenny Pickett that year was not nearly as high as Bo Nix and Penix.
Well, our opinion of Kenny
across the
Pickett
board.
was always going to be where his draft capital was projected and where it ended up being. And so I'm not going to do anything differently with JJ McCarthy. Like, it would be stupid for me to say JJ McCarthy is the clear number 4 QB according to the NFL scouting community, but my opinion is like that I don't like JJ McCarthy. Because have I seen enough from JJ McCarthy to be sold on him? Absolutely not. But I have seen enough from JJ McCarthy to know that he has the potential tools to be a decent quarterback in the NFL, if not a good quarterback. And Michael Penix and Bo Nix, like, as much as I love Michael Penix personally, I'm not going to let my emotion make that decision for me. I'm going to rank.
Oh, it's not my emotion.
Because if they were all. What? You do have emotion. Your emotion is you don't like JJ McCarthy. I was there the day you came back from the Big Ten championship game. You were like, dude, McCarthy sucks.
That wasn't emotion. I went in there like really excited to watch both teams, and I was ready to do my homework, and that was my homework.
Like things have changed.
The Iowa
since
game,
then.
the Iowa game was the Iowa game. Iowa has they
very
always have a
good
good defense. Yes, JJ McCarthy was hurt at that point, and no, we're not going to be able to accurately analyze every single game that JJ McCarthy has ever played. But from what I have seen, which is, the college football playoff games, the Iowa game, multiple games during the regular season, the Bowling Green game where he threw 2 picks against Bowling Green at home.
That's
like,
who cares?
Things like that.
I could go find whoever the frick that plays in the NFL and I'll go
Michael
throw 2
Penix
picks.
had bad games too.
Yeah, against bad
Yeah.
teams. Like he played in the Pac-12. He's playing in bad teams half the time. Like legit. But at the same time, like I'm not trying to take a hard stance like JJ McCarthy is it.
And I don't think JJ McCarthy is all the way not it. What my problem is,
how do you justify ranking him behind both Penix and Nix? That doesn't make any sense to me. They're projected more than a full round apart
Michael
right now.
Penix is a 2-time back-to-back Heisman candidate who, like JJ McCarthy, made the college football playoff. And I mean, honestly, if you're talking about statistics and pedigree and success, Michael Penix by far and away has way more to show off than JJ McCarthy does from an individual standpoint. So there's that. Bo Nix, I think being able to see Bo Nix develop from what he was at Auburn, which did you watch a lot of Auburn when Bo Nix was there?
A little bit earlier in his career.
He was your stereotypical classic college quarterback that kind of just does what he's asked to do, and he doesn't really do anything beyond that, to being that game-changing playmaker at Oregon who had some really good weapons around him. But if you watch some of those biggest games, really the Washington games specifically that had, like Bo Nix was incredible in those games, and he was the reason Oregon was so good this year. And for me to be able to see that development from year 1 to year 5 or 6 for Bo Nix makes me think that he can grow even more. And honestly, for Bo Nix getting knocked with his lack of arm talent, you should say, or arm strength, like he was making more throws off the back of his foot than I saw McCarthy make, like consistently. And no, it didn't have as much velocity as McCarthy does, but like to me, I think he was a better playmaker consistently. And when you want to talk about consistency, like sure, there's always going to be your Anthony Richardsons, but like the biggest argument I could see against my side is Anthony Richardson, right? Because Anthony Richardson, probably next to Trey Lance, the most underdeveloped prospect that went top 5 or top 10 that we've seen in a long time. The difference is, to me, like one, Anthony Richardson is far from proven. We like Anthony Richardson a lot and like his outlook, but he had to get top 5 draft capital for us to be sold on him, and he had to go do a dream situation for us to be sold on him. I think, and this kind of brings me to this idea of 2024 in these picks in general and in Dynasty Fantasy Football, we like completely forget that there's an entire other side of the ball. And even though there's so much need for the quarterback position right now in the NFL, there was last year too. The Falcons knew going into 2023 that they were going to be starting Desmond Ridder, and he was their guy, and they were so excited to start him. And no, they weren't. They just took the best player at the other position. At a different position.
It's a different quarterback market this year.
But it's a different quarterback market every single year. And we always say, everyone that doesn't have a Justin Herbert or a Joe Burrow, of course they're going to need a quarterback. Like, that's just the reality of the NFL.
I don't think you can even compare last year.
I think we're getting tunnel vision with the class of 2024, because at this point you're always referring to the mocks of JJ McCarthy going top 15. How many mocks?
It happened in the last week. It's called being flexible and actually being willing to change my opinion.
Tell me this: how many mocks have like 8 of the first 10 players off the board being skill position players that are dynasty relevant in this class this year?
It has nothing to do with dynasty.
Daniel
Jeremiah doesn't play dynasty.
But Daniel Jeremiah is
a former NFL scout. Like, what is he?
A lot of mock drafts are
knows more than me.
No, a lot of mock drafts are run by Hype, and Hype is run by offenses. People people get excited about quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. So they always get push-up boards and mocks. It always happens. We see it every single year. So you're always going to see so many more offensive skill position players go higher than they eventually do. Like, look at it any year.
I think that's a cheap argument.
Why do you think mock drafts are so different than, like, why are real drafts, the actual happenings of the draft, so different than mock drafts every single year?
Because a lot of it is situationally based, and it depends on how the draft
situationally
falls.
based.
No.
And what's the
of the NFL draft, not of team situation.
Right. And what is the NFL?
Most of the time, the buzz around who a team is interested in is accurate. Most of the time, it is. Right.
Right. And the buzz is never centered around a defensive player, because no one. your standard NFL fan doesn't care about defense as much as they do about offense.
Did you see any mock drafts last year? How many offensive players were up there last year?
Just as many as this year.
No, there were not, dude. There were so many more defensive players. Like I see how that would be an argument among dynasty players, but I'm going for information. I'm going outside of dynasty circles and going to people who are actually plugged in and connected to actual scouts, like NFL people who are at the combine with NFL scouts or NFL scouts themselves.
And where did those people get us with Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis?
Did they, or was that us? Because it was a dynasty thing. And at the time, we were very new to dynasty, and we made the mistake of falling for all the hype around dynasty circles. That was Malik Willis. Yeah. But how much did the NFL scouting community actually
how much did the NFL scouting community say that Will Levis was going to go top 5?
But Will Levis was considered in the top 5, so that was accurate.
Okay, so if that's the case, right. So that brings me to my next point. So let's say that Will Levis among NFL teams was actually considered to potentially go top 5, and they considered taking him, because we did hear whispers that if the Colts didn't land Anthony Richardson, they would have taken Will Levis top 5. Sure. Then why did Will Levis fall all the way to the second round after that? What happens from 6 to 32?
The need for quarterback in that range decreases than it does from 1 to 5. There's a reason teams have
so
top
5
picks.
J.J. McCarthy is being mocked 15, how unrealistic is it to see him potentially fall?
It's more unrealistic than it was last year, because the teams in the 6 to 15 range do have more need for a quarterback than they did last year.
No, they had just as much need as they did last
year. The Giants thought they were
set
set with Daniel Jones, and they are not set with Daniel Jones. The Falcons were optimistic with Desmond Ridder, and they know Desmond Ridder.
They were publicly optimistic. The
Raiders were confident in Jimmy Garoppolo and actually have him on a deal. The Saints thought Derek Carr was going to be their next quarterback. Dude, the ambiguity behind quarterbacks in their situations from last year to this year has changed drastically. It's why quarterbacks have been pushed up boards. And also, the fact that this class is a very QB-heavy class has also made waves, because people are just saying this is a good QB class, and I think that's possible. I think it's possible to have a class that just has a bunch of offensive studs without saying this is only a dynasty thing. This is us getting tunnel vision. I don't think it's tunnel vision at all. When you're picking your sources, and your sources are not dynasty-centered people, I'm not sure that's an accurate excuse, because I do realize defense matters, and so do people who do these mock drafts. And honestly, last year we saw that play out, where there were almost no offensive players in the top 10 of these drafts. But this year, I do think some of these offensive players have the capabilities to go top 10. These are watch anybody. Who do you trust? Brett Coleman, franchise guy. Watch any of them. Any of them would say Romo Dunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best trio of receivers at the top of the draft we've had in a long time. That's why they're going top 11, not because we have tunnel vision. It's the same thing with QBs.
Right, but would you be shocked if Romo Dunze fell to 15?
Probably at this point, yes, I would be surprised.
Shocked.
I would be surprised. I don't think he falls that far. I think he's that good of receiver talent. I think in most classes he would be a wide receiver. He would be the wide receiver 1. I think he would have been wide receiver 1 in last year's class. I think sometimes they're just this
to me. I think we're shown literally every single year that water generally finds its level with these prospects, and more often than not, those guys in the middle range, like of the first round that we mock, usually end up falling a little bit further than we expect, or other teams take other positions that we didn't necessarily want to see them take, because they are the best players at their positions. Like if you're a team in that 12 to 20 range, and you maybe have a need for a quarterback, like say the Raiders, because the Raiders have a need for QB. I mean, you do have Russell Wilson that you can get on the cheap, honestly.
But Russell Wilson's and no franchise wants to do the Colts thing and go get a Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers year after year. If there is a young...
The Falcons have a QB need, and they want Kirk Cousins.
If it were the Colts and the options were J.J. McCarthy and Russell Wilson, I would want J.J. McCarthy easily, 100%.
Yeah, but you and me are not them.
No, but NFL teams operate under that exact same mindset, because they know that it makes a difference from team momentum standpoint, from a sales standpoint.
From a philosophy standpoint, do you think that NFL teams, more often than not, do you think they select their first round pick based off of team need or positional value?
I mean, both. Right?
Bofa.
I mean, it has to be a combination of a bunch of things, including those two. Those are two of the bigger ones. Why should we? Because here's the thing, Nathan.
My thing is McCarthy. Like, do you think that McCarthy as a QB4 in this class is like super duper like special as a guy that you really should be taking top 15?
Does it matter what I think? I don't know, Nathan. I don't know.
Right. So
I'm relying on them to tell me.
All right.
Because I don't know any better, and I'm not good enough at watching film and being like, "Yeah, look at that. Yeah, look at that."
Here,
I thought Malik Willis was good.
And this is the other thing. This is the other thing too. If I was ranking JJ McCarthy at like the end of the second round, tiers and tiers below Bo Nix and Michael Penix, then we would have to probably have like a serious conversation of like, I'm totally ignoring everything that is being said out there. That's valid. But the argument here is Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and JJ McCarthy pretty much in the same tier right now. And I prefer the other two guys over McCarthy.
How can you rank? I don't even see how we honestly can rank them in the same tier at this point. If they go that far apart, they are not in the same tier. A second round quarterback.
If they go that far apart, you're right. They haven't yet.
I'm just operating on what we've seen as projected draft capital, which I think is fairly good process, and it allows for adjustments to be made with logical explanations as to why I had somebody there. So why should we not rank JJ McCarthy? Why should we not believe this?
Why should we?
No, we should because they know more than us. That's why.
Okay, but
they know more than you and
these
me.
mocks have shown time and time again, just like you and me, we are wrong all the time, and they are wrong all the time.
But they're doing full mock drafts. We're not doing full mock drafts.
The ultimate draft capital will speak for the value of these players. And if McCarthy goes higher than Penix and Nix eventually, then you're right.
So if you have legitimate NFL scouts saying that McCarthy's going to be a top 15 pick, why would we not operate under that?
Okay, but this is literally, like, this is lying season. You hear lies about these players all the time. Remember Hendon Hooker last year? Everyone loved Hendon Hooker, and he was, he was going to go at the end of the first round pretty easily. Like, we were convinced, and
he was projected in the second last year. Hendon Hooker was.
Okay, but you and I suspected, based off of our own personal opinion, that he was going to potentially go at the end of the first round because some people really, really liked him, and he had really great team meetings. Guess what? We're hearing the same thing about all these players. Like, the NFL Combine should not be changing the narrative of these players too much because they're scripted meetings, and like the only thing that matters is what goes on behind closed doors. That honestly, like. The public is not going to know everything that goes on behind closed doors.
So you don't think we should be ranking him above because you just don't trust mock drafts at all? Because it's not only mock drafts. You're talking about a sample size of 20, 20 or more mock drafts. It's not like I'm looking at one and being like,
so you want to
betting odds.
You want to rank JJ McCarthy over Michael Penix and Bo Nix, and
easily now.
I don't have an issue with that if you want to do it. I don't think that I should get as much crap as I do for wanting to rank Penix and Nix over McCarthy at the moment.
I don't think I'm giving you crap, but I think other people are going to give you crap for it, and I definitely see why. Because we're literally contradicting ourselves when we say we're following the draft capital on Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is being ranked among scouts up there with Malik Neighbors, so we're going to put him in the same tier. But then we're like, screw the scouts. JJ McCarthy sucks. Like that's totally contradictory. Like, so I'm just trying to follow the same logic that we always follow. And I could definitely see why people would come at us. Because, again, I don't care about JJ McCarthy. Mm-hmm. I care about draft capital and semantics. And there's not a single thing out there right now.
There are plenty of assets every single year, though, that despite their solid draft capital, we rank way lower than consensus sometimes because of our opinion on the player. And
that's true,
like Jonathan Mingo was case in point.
But we are never.
Remember Jonathan Mingo? He went 2-0
Have we ever done this with a quarterback
last year?
Have we done this with a quarterback in a Superflex league that's projected top 15? When have we done that?
Yeah, Will Levis.
No, we didn't, dude.
Yeah, because he consensus top 5. Consensus top 5, and we did not rank him nearly as high as we had Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. He was at least a tier or two below what we had.
And we're not ranking JJ McCarthy as high as Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden Daniels. It's
the
same thing. It's the same thing. Like, again, we can adjust our rankings, but he's 2 or 3 tiers below those guys right now.
And I think Penix and Nix belong in that same area.
Well, then make the argument about Penix and Nix and not about JJ. Okay. It's nothing to do with JJ. JJ's projected top 15. So Nix and Penix you think are as good, then you think they're that good. So you think there are 6 prospects in this quarterback class that could go
first round, but the part of it too.
Top 15.
No, because I don't.
JJ McCarthy could go top 15.
I don't think McCarthy or Nix or Penix will go top 15. I think that if they go in the first round, it would be after that. And I don't think that there's 6 QBs that are going to be going in the first round.
25 minutes, prediction time. What order do these QBs get drafted in April?
I think it's Caleb and May, easily. It's Caleb, May, Daniels, and then... I'll go with Penix, Nix, McCarthy, because that's what my rankings are right now. I think McCarthy, I just genuinely believe that McCarthy's a day 2 guy because of his traits. It's nothing, honestly, as negative as I sound about talking about as negative as I sound with McCarthy all the time when I talk about him, I genuinely think there are talents at the QB position that can go day 2. I mean, we just saw it with Jalen Hurts a couple years ago. And Jalen Hurts, as a college prospect going into the NFL, was pretty solid. He went day 2. Like, you know what I'm saying? And his traits were, you get what I'm saying there? Like, he just showed so much more.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
it's the same argument that I had with Jaden Daniels that last video. It's like, I like Jaden Daniels, but the top 5 hype I just can't buy because every time we think that these teams that have so much team need, you have those anomalies like the Panthers who do trade up to get their guy. But usually after those first 2 QBs go, you're not having those mid-range teams trade up into the top 5 to go get a Jaden Daniels in the 3rd best QB, just see what happens with the board and let him fall. Like Jaden Daniels, I think he goes top 15, that 10 to 15 range probably, because that's where Deshaun Watson went 5 years ago. Like it was longer than 5 years ago.
I can't get into the weeds on that one because it's such a different QB market. Like that's my argument. That's what I would go into, but it's just so different now. But my prediction would be
every year's different.
Caleb, and then May and Daniels, and then McCarthy, and then Penix and Nix in any order. So I think right now McCarthy is trending towards being trending towards being the 4th quarterback taken off the board. And you're
right, draft capital is at the end of the day king. If McCarthy gets top 15 draft capital, we're ranking him accordingly, and we both agree on that 100%. But when's the best time to make these predictions anyways? When no one is doing their drafts until the rookie draft, and this is the time to make predictions, and my prediction is that JJ McCarthy is going to fall.
There you have it. All right, let us know what you think in the comments. Do us a huge favor, drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe. Tell us if you like the debate videos. I'm sure you probably...
We did this for you guys.
I'm pretty sure you did. So, all right, peace out, y'all.